Yo, what is up guys? It's Aqua. I'm back with another video. Today I wanted to go over my water deck profile with the brand new card, White Dragon Hermit Nanase Re-B. I'm sorry if the quality's horrible. This is my first time ever doing a video with this new screen recording device. So we're going to be going over everything that came out with the water deck because this new Rebi is pretty crazy and it combos really well with all the older cards for water, and you actually have a pretty good deck right here. The only thing is that personally I just created this build about an hour ago because once the card came out on BFA I decided to make a build, and if you have any improvements for the build, comment it down below. So yeah, the first card we're gonna go over is White Dragon Hermit Nanase Re-B. You're running 4 of this card, technically 5 because one of them is the Buddy. So the call cost is put 2 water from drop zone into soul and pay a gauge. When a card is put in the opponent's gauge, if your opponent has 3 or more gauge, your opponent must drop gauge until they have 2 gauge, is his main, most important ability, which is crazy. Basically, your opponent can only have 2 gauge at all times in the game. The only way to really stop this is by destroying Nanase, which they can only really do during the attack phase, or you could try to get rid of it with card effects, which is why you're going to be running 3 Grace. There we go. Grace is one of the most important cards in the game, one of the best cards in the game, and it's essential when it comes to this deck. The only problem here is that Nanase is a promo card, which means that we might never get it in English, but for Japanese players, they're going to have a bunch of fun with it. The rest of Nanase's Rebi's ability is at the start of each player's attack phase, if your opponent has 1 or less gauge, gain 2 life, draw a card, all water, gain 10k power, 10k defense, and double attack. His counter ability is you can drop a soul from the card, and if you do, you drop one of the opponent's gauge. So you could drop the opponent's gauge down to 0 on your first turn. So basically how you're going to be comboing this card on turn 1 is you're going to be calling it, you're going to be using its skill to drop a soul from Nanase, drop one of the opponent's gauge, opponent only has 1 gauge, then you get to draw a card, gain 2 life, double attack, all that stuff. Which you can do, but it's not too essential on your first turn. You're usually doing this during the second turn. This way you can attack more times with Nanase and this card. Early Passing Beautiful Frog is its name on Buddyfight area, but I'm pretty sure in general its name is Premature Passing. When this card enters the field, put up to 2 Skull Warrior or Water Monsters from your deck in a drop zone, shuffle the deck. When this card is attacking alone, the attack cannot be nullified. So you're comboing it with Nanase. So basically, if you're playing against, example is Ulti Garga, you can attack Ulti Garga with Premature Passing Frog, and the opponent can't nullify it, and the attack is actually going to destroy Ulti Garga because Nanase gives off 10k power to the entire board. So Premature Passing is sitting at 12k power, 1 crit, and 11k defense, which is pretty good for a size 0 nowadays. And the opponent can't nullify the attack, so you could wipe the opponent's whole board with this. Even if the opponent does something like Buddy Block, you can still wipe the board. One of the best things about this deck is that the opponent really can't loyalty it because you're only calling about 3 monsters a turn. So the next thing I wanted to talk about with this card is this card right here, Premature Passing. I said his name like 50 times, but this card is an essential. I need you to run 4 of him if you're playing this deck. He's insane. You're going to combo him so well. So your combo with this card is you're going to call him, and you're going to put 2 water monsters from your deck in a drop zone. So you could put 2 Nanase, or you could put 1 Nanase and 1 Yukishiro if you don't know what this card is. This card is a spell null monster. When your opponent casts a spell in the main phase, put the card in the drop zone, pay a gauge, and nullify the spell, which is really good. So you could put those 2 cards into the drop zone, and then you're going to use this card as fuel for Celestial Arts Returning Water. So this card is going to destroy Premature Passing Beautiful Frog, and you're going to get a gauge of life and draw a card. So you're going to have 3 monsters in your drop zone. You're going to have Premature Passing, you're going to have Nanase, and you're going to have Yukishiro unless you're putting 2 Nanase in drop. Then you're going to activate Water Ploy Kyoku Suionen. Sorry if I messed that up. That's the card on the screen right now. This card, you may only cast this card when a monster on the field is destroyed, which combos off of Celestial Arts Returning Water because it destroys a monster on your field. Then you put a water monster or a size 1 or less monster from drop zone into your hand. So you're going to add Nanase right back to your hand, which is really good. I know a lot of people are definitely thinking that this is like, oh, this isn't that easy of a combo to pull off. You need like 4 different cards. Well, you can do it the easy way with this card. Demon Way Senketsu Kanro. You pay a gauge and put a water monster from your deck into your hand and you shuffle your deck. You can only cast it once per turn. So you can grab anyone. You can grab Premature Passing, so you can set off your combo for Nanase. You can just grab Nanase if you feel like it, or if your board isn't complete, you can grab a Yukishiro. You can grab any of the monsters in this deck except for Rie Moon with this spell card right here, which is pretty crazy. I think the deck is pretty consistent when it comes to getting what you need in your hand. The only problem that I think is that it kind of lacks defense. So another card in the deck, we're going to be running 3 of Clear Serenity. We're going to be running 1 of Demon Way Sakura Fubuki because it is limited to 1, and it's only pay 2 life and nullify a spell, which is really good. There's no reason to not run it. And then the next combo that we're going to be talking about here is Loyalty and Ninja Arts Mat Flipping Technique. This is another combo, which is Katana World exclusive. You can also do it in Hero World, but in this deck it's Katana World. So this card, Ninja Arts Mat Flipping Technique, is an old card. You guys probably forgot about it. When your opponent calls a size 2 or less monster, you pay 2 gauge and you nullify the call. So you're going to be getting your gauge with Clear Serenity. And another thing with this deck is that if you want to focus on this combo, Mat Flipping Technique with Loyalty, you're going to need a lot of gauge, so you're going to probably need to make your build a little different than mine. So you nullify the call, and your opponent, calls maybe like 2 more monsters. You nullify it 3 times, and then you use Loyalty. You're going to be running 3 of Loyalty just in case, and then you're going to basically make sure your opponent can't call any more monsters and their board is clear. But the thing is, this isn't really too essential. I might end up dropping this combo from the deck, because with Nanase, if you're... Well, actually, no, it's good. You can drop it, but the thing is, with Nanase, your opponent really can't call any monster greater than size 2, because almost every size 3 monster in the game requires pay 2 gauge to call it, and pay 2 or 3 gauge, and with Nanase's ability, your opponent can only have 2 gauge. So most of the time, if you're calling like Ulti Garga, if you have Nanase on the field, your opponent can't call Ulti Garga, which is pretty crazy. It's like a huge nerf, and you can't even drop Nanase from board if you're running Grace. So this kind of shuts down a lot of decks, which is really good. And then, the combo with Mat Flipping Technique and Loyalty is very good also. Next we're going to be talking about Art of Truancy. This is a Katana World staple. If you've ever played Katana World, you're going to be running this card. It's really good for draw power because this deck lacks draw power. So you drop a Ninja Arts card from the hand and pay a gauge and draw 2 cards. Almost every spell that we've discussed is a Ninja Art. Mat Flipping Technique is a Ninja Art. Clear Serenity, Water Ploy, Kyo, Kusuyona, and Celestial Arts Returning Water are all Ninja Arts cards. So if you have an extra copy of like Celestial Arts Running Water or Clear Serenity, because those 2 you can only cast 1 per turn, you just drop it from your hand, pay a gauge, and draw 2 cards. Very simple. The next card, we're going to be running 3 of Rie Moon. This is a staple in most decks. You can reduce damage. You can make sure that the stats of your cards can't get dropped, which is not too big of an issue. I don't really run this card in most decks, and it's not been too consistent here where I haven't drawn it too much, but I've just been doing like tests. I really haven't been playing against too many people. I've kind of not rushed, but I really want to put this video out to tell people about these combos, because I was on Discord earlier telling people about these combos, and they were pretty interested in them, and I know a YouTuber, Aibo Academy. I could put his channel in the link in the description. He's actually interested in running this deck for Springfest next year if we can get Nanase in English. So the next card, you're going to be running 4 of Sweet Happy Time, which I don't get this card too consistently. I usually get 1 of it, but you kind of need 2. This card is great in this deck. This card, it feels like it was built for this deck. So this deck has no anti-rest, no anti-destruction, and no anti-ability null. Sweet Happy Time solves 2 of those problems. It makes sure that your cards can't be rested by opponents' card effects, and that the abilities of your monsters cannot be nullified, which the cast cost is only a life and it's a counter, so you could use it for response plays to make sure it can't get nullified, because it's such an important card to be casting. Um, the first effect is also good. I really don't think you're going to be using it too much. I think you're only going to be using it if you're playing against like a tank deck, like Max Dragons, in all honesty. But a lot of decks have been improving their stats, like Athora. Like most decks nowadays kind of have cards that just boost their attacks. I don't know why, but uh, that's just something that's been happening in the meta recently. So the next card we're going to be talking about, Yukishiro, Runaway Female Ninja Yukishiro. I discussed this card before, but it's a size 1 with 2000 power, 2000 crit, 1 defense. When your opponent casts a spell on his or her main phase, put this card into the drop zone, pay a gauge, and nullify the spell. You're just going to be running 3 of. I would personally rather have my board set up with 1 Nanase and 2 Premature Passing, because it's very offensive. But if you want to go for maybe more of a defensive shutdown kind of build, which I think that this deck is a lot better for shutting down the opponent, you're going to want to run 1 Yukishiro on the left side, 1 Nanase in the center or the right side, and then you're basically, when your opponent casts a spell, you're going to use Yukishiro and just shut the spell down when they're casting like a draw spell, and then that's going to require them usually paying a gauge. Draw spells usually require a gauge or two. Nanase just drops the opponent's gauge so they can't do anything, and even if they get 3 or more gauge, they have to drop it down to 2. So this deck is really good, honestly. I'm going to talk about that in a second, sorry. You're going to run 4 Art of Body Replacement and 2 Buddy Block. So now let's talk about the actual deck itself and my personal thoughts on it. I rushed so hard to make this deck profile because of how crazy these combos are. The ratios in my build aren't too great, but they're definitely something that you're going to be using to start off. This is a base deck profile where these are basically most of the cards that you're going to be using in the deck, and then you can edit it whatever way you want. You can maybe drop one Premature Passing Beautiful Frog if you wanted to, and maybe add something in. You can maybe like drop that, throw in another Buddy Block. There could be a little more consistent cards out there. You could also run Future Card Buddyfight in this deck. I forgot about that card because I just draw Nanase so consistently that it's like I don't even need the card in the deck. But it is a really good card for you to get that you can run in this deck. That is certainly something that you should be running, that you can run in here. But I think that this deck is almost as annoying to play against as something like Draw Metal, because when you're playing against Draw Metal just takes away your entire field. They can't do anything. With this deck, it takes away your opponent's gauge and they can't do anything. And then you have 5th Omni, and now because of the Bal Soleil Rebi Sun Dragons, that basically take away your opponent's field. So this set is definitely very annoying for the opponent, even though Nanase and Bal Soleil are not in this set. They are promo cards. My apologies. These cards will definitely piss off your opponent. I think that they're pretty interesting to play. I don't think they're fun to play against.